Welcome to Subramani. Today I am going to talk to you about my limitations as an investor, or what I know are my limitations as an investor. I know, of course, there are more limitations which I don't even know. So I will tell you what I know my limitations as an investor are. First of all, I learned very recently about sizing, which I learned from Naren, and I owe it to him, saying that you should invest a significant amount of money in an idea which you believe and then hold on till eternity, right? Or till you think that you have better opportunities to hold. So that is one thing which I started doing pretty late, maybe last 3-4 years, that I have been sizing. So sizing of my portfolio is now slightly better. I wouldn't still do very big transactions. I wouldn't mind doing a small transaction of a share which keeps growing, right? So it would have grown to an X amount. I'm not throwing numbers at you. It would have grown to a 10x or a 20x or a 30x. I don't mind that being in my portfolio, but will I sell that 30x share to buy another 30x share, another share of that amount? No. The answer is no. I'm still scared. My first transaction must have been 1,250, but today I think my transaction size per share that I buy would at least be 1.5 million, right? So about 15 lakhs. But I still may not be able to get myself to do a 75 lakh transaction or a 1 crore transaction. Yes, some shares of mine are worth 10 times that or 5 times that, but I would never have the guts to do a single transaction of that size like how people like Naren do. I also know that I don't have the heart of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, because when we started life, we both identified Tata Power. I would have gone and bought 50 shares. He would have bought 5,000 shares with leverage. Right? It takes guts to leverage. I had zero guts. I have zero guts. I would never leverage. So to make real huge, big time money, you need to have the guts to leverage. You need to have a heart, right? I can't do that kind of a trade. I just don't. And then I'll convince myself that I don't need to, but I really don't. Another question which people ask me is, tell us about the big losses you made. Here is my greatest smartness. I don't make big losses. I make big gains, but I don't make big losses because I have a very strong stop loss. Let me tell you how my stop loss works. First of all, if I have, you need to understand that I do everything. I do day trading, I do delivery based trading, I do deep value investing, deep value investing, growth investing. I do everything, and I hate being categorized as, oh, he's a contra investor or he's a value investor. Here I believe, like I think Sanjay Bhattacharya, who says every investing is value investing. You are buying hoping to sell at a higher price. That's what. So that is value investing. And like I remember when I bought Bharti Airtel at 30 rupees and sold it off at 1,200 rupees. Yes, you heard it right, 1,200 rupees. Not at 30, sorry, I bought it at 80 rupees. I realized that all the value in that stock came from the growth that it did. So don't get into these traps of value and growth. Sorry, I'm digressing. So whenever I buy a share, I have suppose I'm buying it as a trader, a day trader, or a delivery based trader. I have a very strict stop loss of 10% or 6 months. So if I bought a share at 70 rupees and it does not go up for 6 months, and after 6 months it is still at say 72, 73, I just get rid of it because something is wrong in my reading. So for me, that 6 month is a very strong criteria for getting rid of it, or a 10% fall. So 70 rupee share at 63 is out of my portfolio. Also, remember that earlier I used to do research, so therefore I have a lot of people to whom I can talk with. Sorry. So I bought GMR at say around 70 rupees, and then I realized that or 71, and I realized that I made a mistake when I spoke to somebody who said, why did you buy it? Just get rid of it. And I got rid of it at 69 bucks. So how much did I lose? 2 rupees on 10,000 shares. How many shares did I sell? 9,000. I still held back 1,000, saying, okay, let me hold 1,000 to see whether what I heard about the share is right or wrong. So how much did I save myself? Well, it went down to 9 rupees, and today I think it's at 30 rupees, and I'm not even monitoring it. I just sold off at 63, the remaining 1,000, because I knew that I had to sell at a particular price. Similarly, when I invest, I do something called a stop loss, which is a trailing stop loss. Let's say I bought happiness mindset Happiest Mindset or whatever, Happiest Minds. So I bought it at say $300. Then now it's at $1,200. Now I have a 25% stop loss for a positional investment. So if I bought it at 300 rupees, my stop loss would have been 225. But when at 1200, it is not 225, but it is about 900 or 850 or 842, something which I calculated, or maybe it's 914. So that would be my stop loss. So with my trailing stop loss, I ensure that my downside is protected. So if you ask me what are the big losses that I made, I have not made big losses. I make only 10% or 20% kind of losses. And some shares, if the market comes down 25% and my portfolio, some share in my portfolio comes down 26%, that does not bother me, because I know that when the market comes down, my portfolio will come down. कोई magical portfolio तो है नहीं, right? So then I give it benefit of doubt. But sometimes I see the whole industry shifting. So when I see the industry shifting, sorry, like in 2007, I thought my Tata Power, my Kotak, my Cholamandalam, all that were terribly overpriced. I did not see any justification in the PE, so I got rid of those shares and I benefited because then the market fell. But that was more luck. And reading a book by Ken Fisher, The Only 3 Questions You Must Ask, or something like that. I'm not very sure about the name of the book. And that was a brilliant book. So I read it. I came home and I sold some of these shares, and I made more about 100x, 1000x the cost of the book. So I always keep saying ROI on books is infinite, ROI on education is infinite. My father must have spent X amount on my education. Today I'm able to charge 5x per lecture, right? So ROI on education and ROI on learning is infinite, but you also need to implement. So why am I making a ground for saying all this? It's to accept some of your mistakes which you will make. I have to accept that I will make idiotic, foolish mistakes, because I spoke to some fund manager and I got carried away. I would make some mistakes. But let me tell you, through 3 fund managers with whom I talk with, I have money in their portfolios. Whatever they say, I may or may not implement, but I never ever redeem from those funds, right? So I just stick to them because I know that they are going to add value in the long run. Sometimes their portfolio looks like a contrarian portfolio to mine. Sometimes it reflects what I have done, and every time they come out trumps, they give very good results. If they are anyway going to give me good results, whenever I talk to them and they say this fund looks good, this fund does not look good, or things like that, I act on that, but I don't ever redeem from their own funds, right? It does not make sense for me. For you, you have to take your own decision, right? So that is one thing which I have to admit. So similarly, all of us have to admit that we will act stupid, we will make envious mistakes, we are jealous, we look at somebody else's portfolio and say, my God, उसने कितना पैसा बनाया शेयर में, I should also buy. Completely wrong, but we will all do it. We have to accept that we will do it. We all have our limitations. I have no clue how the gaming business works, but I still have invested in a company, because to think that every business you will learn and then invest looks very difficult. Maybe it was easier in a simpler world. Today it does not, because I pick up the balance sheet of many companies and I don't know what it does. For example, let's take a very simple balance sheet like HDFC Limited. You look at HDFC Limited and say, oh, mortgage is easy to understand. But if mortgage was the only thing which HDFC Limited did, then it wouldn't get this PE, right? Anybody can do this mortgage business. In fact, banks are better equipped to do mortgage business. But then HDFC Limited is Berkshire Hathaway. Look at its investment portfolio. There are many more things, right? And today I'm not tracking them. Once upon a time I used to track them. I used to look at, say, oh, they got Carborundum Universal 20,000 shares, very good, I can also hold it. I would look at them, compare it to my portfolio and say, this for me was a litmus test. HDFC has invested, HDFC has done its due diligence, right? That is how I used to compare my portfolio to their portfolio, apart from price limits, right? Price is something which the market tells you, and I hate the word saying Bhao Bhagwan hai. Bhao Bhagwan hai most of the times, but the times when Bhao Bhagwan nahi hai is the time that you make a lot of money. I think Sanjay Bhattacharya says this in one of his CFA lectures, right? And it is so true, because you cannot get carried away by a share just because of the price. I remember Silverline going up from 30 to $1,300. and then coming back to 6 rupees, right? I was very lucky that I was not caught in it. If I were caught in it, I could have bought the share at 500, sold at 800, and still felt regret at 1300, saying, oh my God, maine bech diya, gone and bought it again at 1300. This is exactly what Sir Isaac Newton did, right? He earned money, then he put all the money and lost all the money, right? So we can all do these mistakes, and we will do these mistakes, especially if you meet promoters. If I go and meet a promoter, I come back thinking this is the best share in the world. So if I meet a promoter, I have a rule that I will not buy a share for next 15 days and without speaking to any other analyst, because I am not today doing any analysis. I am just meeting the promoter, and the promoter says it's the greatest company, and I come back and I believe it's the greatest company because the food that he served me was very good. But that's ridiculous, right? So you get carried away by some of these events which happen in the market going up, market going down, the bank printing too many notes. I am in the Peter Lynch category, that I believe that I don't understand the impact of macro on the micro, right? So I don't understand, but I understand one thing. If somebody tells you that Asian Paints is a great buy because everybody is buying houses, everybody is painting, etc., 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 I would buy Kajaria Ceramics, right? Because it has the same logic. So I look at similar industries, similar companies rather than the same company. I don't need to look at that. I realize that as people's prosperity increases, more and more people will buy branded watches like Titan, and Titan can stand on its own. It's a beautiful watch, so people will buy. So Titan should be there in your portfolio. But at some price you think maybe I'll get Titan cheaper. So caveat, I'm an original Titan shareholder, but I have not added much beyond that, but that it's itself grown. So I also realize that if I talk to the wrong people, I will lose more money, but even if I talk to the right people, I could lose lot more money if they themselves are getting carried away by the asset gathering business in which they are. But the fund managers I speak to are not under great pressure to invest all the money, but they at least can direct the money. They can say, don't give in these 2 funds, get it in this fund. So that at least they do, and they do a decent job of doing that. I have created wealth for myself in the long run in the equity market. I have also made money in the short run. I don't believe that I would worry too much about long term and short term, because I have completely different techniques and completely different people through whom I make it. So for me, that does not really matter. I have the ability to know what is my long term portfolio, what is my short term portfolio. But my stop loss works very well, and I am completely convinced that luck plays a very important role. I was born and brought up in a Guju area and it's nice to be among Gujaratis if you want to be an investor, and nice to be among Tamilians if you want to be an intellectual. So I am not an intellectual. Yes, I do a lot of reading, but I also realize that you can read all the books in the world, you can read the Buffett and the Zivigs and all that, but it does not mean you will be like them. You can be influenced by them, but you cannot be like them. And whatever be the investment process, whatever it is, whomever I talk to, whatever I do, I know that I will make mistakes and I will make losses, and that I don't want to kill myself saying isme paisa gaya. When I make money, I realize it's luck. When I lose money, I realize it's my luck and poor implementing my own philosophy. And I know that even if the best philosophy, I am likely to lose money. So, well, fine, that suits me, because I don't want to kill myself saying, why was I overweight on pharma when I knew pharma was headed up? It's wrong, right? Right now I have got too much of pharma, I've got hospitals, I've got all that, I'm making money. So it is very difficult for even somebody with 40 years experience to be able to very clinical in their thought process. That is exactly the one thing which I miss, because nobody is reviewing my portfolio and telling me what the mistakes that I make. I am one of those guys who keeps telling people that once the race is over, stop running. My race is over long back, but I have not stopped running. So yes, I contradict myself when I say something and I do something else. I ask people to invest in an index fund. I am myself not very heavily invested in an index fund. I am more in my own direct equity rather than than in an index fund. So these are some of my acceptance that this is the mistakes that I make, and people had asked me as to how I invest. So here is some kind of a summary, and I'll keep making such videos. Thank you.